the thing that really would make me happy, that I would love to excel at, that would be a real challenge, was not what I was doing. And I didn't want to be one of those people who at 65 could barely remember like the really big and cool moments in their life. That was really, really important to me. I was made and born for more than okay. I was really born to do something big, whatever big was for me, and I needed to go out there and do it.
You're listening to the Work in Progress podcast, and we're your hosts, Dana and Angela. We believe your work and your career should evolve with you, and it should always be in progress. In this podcast, you will hear stories of people who turn their careers from something that no longer serves them into something that complements who they are and their life goals. The way I like to think about it is that their careers are growing and stretching just like they are. We hope to inspire you to get out there and make the changes you want for yourself and your future self. Let's get started. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Work in Progress podcast. So today we're talking to Jennifer, and we found her profile online, and we're super impressed with what she's doing. So currently, she is a fitness coach. She's helping busy women find their way back to fitness or start their fitness journey. And she also does some business coaching. So I will let Jennifer introduce herself, and we will start with the questions on why she transitioned away from working at her 15-year career and how she did that. Good morning, Jennifer, and thank you for joining us.
Hey, good morning. I'm really excited to be on the program with you too. I love your story, and I'm really excited to share my story so other people understand what it's like to make a big change in their career.
I know that you're currently coaching women online for fitness, and also I read that you're also coaching them for business as well. That is so amazing. What got you started in fitness in the first place?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a long story. So first, my business is coaching women with fitness and nutrition and health. And then I also am a member of a co-coaching team with coaches creating impact. So that's not my business, but it is something that I'm super passionate about because it's basically helping people kind of where I was early in my career, learn how to grow an online business. But fitness is my number one passion, and it has been that way since I was like a little child. And I have my earliest memories were of me like going to my grandmother's house with all my uncles and my aunts, my cousins, and saying, "Hey, I bet I could do 100 sit-ups, and you can give me like $1." And I would just constantly do those little mini exercise challenges. And that would be my cute little kid way to earn money. But as young kids, my sister and I would love to spend time watching the ESPN shows. There was like 2 hours worth of fitness programming in the morning. So summertime, when we weren't in school, we would move all the furniture in our house. And I'm sure my parents really loved that. And then we would follow along to all of these exercise shows. And of course, we didn't have weights or anything like that. We would go to the pantry and steal like tomato soup or any kind of can that we could hold in our little hands. And we'd work out. And it was so much fun. And I loved it. I loved to move around. My grandmother used to call me wiggle worm because she said I would never sit still. And so that really continued throughout my entire life. So I was active in sports. In high school, I actually started working at a gym in a personal training studio. And my boss was great because he would have me be his, training helper. So I learned a lot. He even let me teach some of the classes. I don't know if he was allowed to do that. I was 16 or 17 at the time. And, that was really the first time I thought like, hey, people do this for a living. It's not just like fun and jumping around and hanging out. Like this was like a job and a business. And I really enjoyed learning from my first boss, Don. But I went to college. I went the traditional route. I got a 4-year degree in food science. I love food. And, I was like, hey, this seems cool. I learned about food and nutrition. And I just stayed active, and I built my traditional career, which I'm sure I'll tell you about in a little bit, but always in the background, fitness was there. So I earned group exercise certifications. I mean, I was certified in turbo kick, body pump, grit, all sorts of Les Mills things. And I just loved it. So I taught while I was working full time. I always taught classes. I earned my personal training certification. I trained clients. My now husband and I opened a group fitness studio and personal training studio. I mean, we did all of this in the quote background as I was working a full-time 40-hour-a-week job with kids, all of that stuff. But fitness was always there for me. It's my anchor. It's the one thing I go to when things are tough. It got me through a divorce, got me through, after having a baby, it's always been that thing that I love, and it makes me feel good and healthy and positive.
I wish I could say the same for myself, but honestly, like I think we actually went to we went to the same college, and at our college we had an amazing gym, but I only took advantage of it probably twice, really, and I really was not really that into fitness at all, and I really was not healthy at all. Before I started, probably in my 30s, where it really wasn't the age that got me to, start to watch my diet or start to exercise, but it was, I don't know, it was kind of like a hobby that I found when like a few years ago, and I just got really into it. So now I'm pretty good. I work out like 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week, and I watch what I eat. But before then, it was really just, pretty unhealthy, really. So I'm so happy that, like I know that there are a lot of people out there that's not like me, that had a healthy upbringing. So it's so good to hear, some refreshing stories. But I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah, I think everyone comes to fitness differently, and not everyone loves to exercise. And I think the key for me is I like to meet people where they are, because sometimes people do it because they want a stress reliever. Sometimes people do it because they want their body to look differently. Sometimes people do it because they need a hobby or they're bored. You just have to meet people where they are. And then I help people find the fun or in the joy in that, or the fun and the joy of the results that they get. And so it's really important I don't expect everybody to just love it the way I do. I certainly hate running. And I know there are people who love doing that and get that great runner's high. But I think it's important to just meet people where they are in their fitness journey. And I would love to say, I mean, my parents, I think, were relatively healthy, but yeah, I was a kid. I ate junk food. I remember one year where I probably had Hostess chocolate donuts every day for lunch. So, no judgment from me. I've been there.
You worked in a different career for about 15 years before that. And tell us more about it.
Yeah. So I actually started off as a scientist. So I have a degree in food science. And the route that I went with that initially was food safety and sales. And, I did a lot of traveling. Then I eventually wanted to get my MBA as well, because the travel was difficult and I wanted more mobility. So I went back to school. And when I did that, I started working at a higher education institution. And so that began my 15-year career in higher ed. And in that career, I started off doing product research and product development with food, and which was very close to my degree area. But eventually, I worked my way through the department, and then I worked at the college level, and then I worked at the university level in finance and operations. So the further along I got in my career, the further away I got from my degree area, which is pretty normal. So even within my roles at the university where I worked, I changed. So I became really adept at adapting. I worked with recruitment and diversity. And then when I went into finance and operations, I did things like safety and security, university level planning, and sustainability. And eventually I became the university sustainability director for a number of years. And then as the sustainability department was reorganized into another unit, because this is very typical in higher ed, I ended up in infrastructure planning and facilities, which was like completely not anything that I ever studied ever. But I was, apparently let's just say I was outspoken, and I had a lot of ideas on how things could happen. And it just coincided with a new vice president who had led the unit. And so he tapped me and a group of other people to really start to look at the long-term future for our organization. And then eventually I became the director of our strategic initiatives group. So we did planning, forward planning, project management for, a multi-million dollar unit on our campus. I worked at a very large university. And so that's where I ended my career. So I was there at this particular institution for 15 years, various roles, but all in higher education. So I know a lot about higher ed. I know a lot about higher ed, particularly on the administrative and operations side. And that's so the whole time when I was doing all this exercise and certifications and, we had the studio. I did personal training. I did that before 8 a.m. and I did it after 5 p.m. and on weekends. So I always say I lived a double life because a lot of people in my higher ed role didn't know that I was a, figure competitor and that I did personal training and that I had this business and that I was, that's the life that I led when I left and after I took my suit off. But yeah, I basically lived that double life for quite some time.
Wow. And at what point in your career did you start getting really into fitness and started to coach people and started to do the figure competition?
Well, the figure competitions came about because I just wanted a different challenge. I'd already earned lots of certifications and I just wanted to do something new. So that was more towards, in the last 5 years or so. But it's been at least 10 years since I've been coaching and training people. But I really started doing things online about, I would say 3 to 4 years ago, because at the end of the day, there's only so many hours you have in a day. And I guess the business mind in me, it was like, well, I want to work with and help as many people as possible. But if I have to only do it in 1 hour or 30 minutes at a time, well, it's going to be a pretty short list. So I actually started seeing other coaches working with people from a distance, which has been happening for a long time. But now we have the technology and the apps in order to support that kind of a business. So just a few years ago is when I started to take this online and start to try things out. And I was like, yeah, I knew I could make some money off of it, but I was more really trying to free up and leverage my time. But just through experience and trial and error and some things that were happening in my job, that was kind of like the set of circumstances that made me start to think that maybe it was time to switch and change careers and to do what I absolutely loved and have loved all my life full time.
Got it. And what were those things, and what were the circumstances that made you decide to move away, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, not at all. It was actually, to me, it was a funny story because I consider myself a very young woman, or at least I always did, right? I was always the youngest person on my team. And, I was a young, director and all of that other stuff. And so I always considered myself young. But one day, so I was coming up on, I was getting, maybe it was like my 13th or 14th year working at this institution. And one of my friends said, Jennifer, you've almost been here 15 years. Just think in a few more years, you can start to think about retirement. And it was like someone dumped a cold bucket of water over my head because, sometimes when you're in something, you don't realize how long you've been there. And when somebody started talking about the end of my career, I had this feeling like, oh my gosh, I haven't done anything I really wanted to do yet. I haven't had the success I wanted yet. And I realized the success that I wanted wasn't at that institution. I had a great job. I had a great position. I made 6 figures. I was doing well, like by everybody else's yardstick. But I knew that the thing that really would make me happy, that I would love to excel at, that would be a real challenge, was not what I was doing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. I have to I can't be one of those people who retired. Oh my gosh, I spent the whole 25 years in one place. It scared me. So I then spent the next year and a half doing a lot of personal development, business development, I worked with some people to help me understand like exactly what I wanted to do. Who did I want to work with? Creating a brand and getting really, really serious about becoming an entrepreneur and really focusing on becoming an entrepreneur full time, because I'd been an entrepreneur. I'd made money. I've had businesses, but I wanted to do it in such a way that it could be a career for me. So, that conversation with my friend, it was super casual. And I'm sure I've told this story so many times, what a profound effect she had on me when she said that. But I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm too young to be thinking about retirement. I'm just not ready yet. I have so many more things to do.
I see. That is such a good, I don't know. I feel like I've talked to a few people now, and it's usually, I don't know, the driving force that, pushed them to move away from their old career are all kind of different from yours, which I really like because I think you're bringing a different perspective, and also like this is the first time I'm hearing it, but I guess that's a very good way to look at it, right? If you are reminded that, we all have like an end of career that is eventually going to happen, but to have that, to remind you that are you really doing what you love or what you're meant to do, what you're really passionate about? I think that's a very good reminder. And I think not everyone gets reminded of that. For the unlucky ones, you're just stuck doing something that you absolutely hate. And sometimes people can't afford to walk away, or they think that they can't afford to walk away. But I think for you, I really like this, your experience that you're sharing. I think it's very, very valuable, actually.
I want to add just a little bit, because this kind of takes it deeper into why this was so important. But I was someone who grew up in a family that really valued education, stability, having a good job, having a home, owning your own home, all of those things. So I grew up for so many years having this like report card that I thought if I did these things, I would get an A and I would be really, really happy. And so I got married. I had a beautiful daughter. I had a beautiful home. I had a great job. I had good credit, all of those things that are supposed to make me happy. And I wasn't. And the first thing I changed, and unfortunately, I got divorced not because my ex he's a wonderful man, but I had painted and created this lifestyle that just really wasn't authentic. It wasn't real. It was what everyone else told me I should want. And then I think in my 30s, I just discovered that's not what I wanted. And it was a really huge transition just in my mental, just the way I looked at my own life. And I even went to counseling and therapy. And one of the greatest aha moments for me was I had never spent time really understanding what was going to make my heart sing. And so I started really being more aware of that. So I made a lot of big changes, and it was difficult and nobody ever really understood, but I realized they didn't have to. People thought when I left my 15-year career, stable, 6-figure leadership job that I was nuts. They assumed that I'd had a falling out. They assumed that there was scandal. They assumed that something was really wrong. And at the end of the day, the only thing that was wrong was this was not where I was supposed to be. This was not the thing that, what do we got? Sparks joy. It did not spark joy. And I didn't want to be one of those people who at 65 could look back and could barely remember like the really big and cool moments in their life, or to say that they didn't really impact anyone. And that was really, really important to me. So it was more of I realized in that conversation with my friend that had spent all this time doing something that was okay, but I was made and born for more than okay. I was really born to do something big, whatever big was for me, and I needed to go out there and do it.
That is so inspirational. Thank you for sharing that.
And I
You're
really
welcome.
like that you mentioned, you wanted to bring impact to others versus, because a lot of the times, a lot of people are after, oh, I am 30, so I should be at this level in my career. I would, be going after that title before I'm 40. And then the number I should be making is this. But I didn't hear any of that from what you said you want to do. And, it's just amazing that you said the things that really spark joy for you is really something, whatever that may be, but something that allows you to impact others. That's just amazing.
I can tell you, like, I have the big house and all of that stuff. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't, because it's just stuff. And in fact, the older I get, or I don't want to say older because I'm not old, but the more mature I get, the more I realize that the things that are really, really important are really, they're very mean. Like my family, being able to have great experiences, meeting people, impacting people. And I don't need a huge home and fancy cars to do that. Yeah, I want a nice car. I want clothes that I enjoy wearing. But, it just, a lot of the stuff, I realized how unimportant it was and how much more happier I was when I finally just said, what is it that is, what's really good? What's the good life? What's living the good life? What are the things that I can do that are really exciting and make me happy and help other people? And then as long as I have enough money to live and not, be homeless, we're good,
Why do you think so? You said that you realized later on all along that this wasn't your passion, but you did so well. What do you think? And you were able to transition between different departments at the university or the college, university, right? And what do you think made that possible?
Yeah, I didn't hate my job. I mean, what I think, I look at it as a giant learning journey, because what I know about myself is I love strategy and planning. And in every single one of my roles, I had the opportunity to do that. I love creating things from scratch. And I also had the opportunity. I was usually someone who either came into something that was brand new or came in and was asked to create something. And I love that. I really do enjoy that. I love the challenge of figuring something out where there's no obvious answer. I love sitting around people and hearing lots of different ideas and collaborating and helping get from point A to point B. I love transforming. And those are still things that I do in my current career as a fitness coach and as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, I am in charge of my entire business. I have to figure out ways to make things work, and nobody's going to come help me. I don't have a boss or another account that I can roll to if things don't go the way that I want them. And so I feel like I'm successful because those are Jennifer traits. Those are me. I love a challenge. I love sitting with a problem and rolling it around and finding a solution for it. And that's what I think makes me really good with my clients, because the women that I work with are not, I don't even know if traditional is even the right word, because I don't think anyone's quote traditional anymore. But I feel like a lot of fitness programs and health programs are geared towards someone who they assume works a certain way, lives a certain way, and that's just not the case for the women that I work with. They are people who have really different lifestyles, and it's up to me to help them figure out a way to navigate fitness and nutrition in a way that makes sense for them. Like, how do you work out when you're in your car for 4 hours a day? Or how do you eat well when you literally never can sit down and don't cook? So those are the type of women that I love working with, because I think their lifestyle presents a really fun challenge for me. And when they get results and when they're able to be successful or lose weight or gain energy or finally figuring out their eating, I feel really great, because it's a unique skill that I know I can bring to the table. So the skills are still the same. I think I did well because I am very competitive by nature. So whether I love something or hate it, damn it, I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to be good. And, that's just the drive in me. And so I liked a lot of the roles that I had at the university. I really enjoyed the challenge. Certainly there were days where I was just like, oh my gosh. But I'll tell you, the biggest thing that was not aligned with me was clocking in. At least that's what I call it. That's just not how my brain works. I want to be able to sleep if I need to, work hard when I need to. And sometimes that's at 5 a.m. Sometimes that I'm done at 2 o'clock, but I'm always productive. So that kind of rigid system was really difficult for me to fit into for so long. And being an entrepreneur, I work just as hard, if not harder. It's my own system and I love it. I thrive in that kind of environment.
How did you make your lifestyle work when you were working both at the university and also coaching people, like you said, before 8 o'clock in the morning and after 5 p.m.?
And let me be real honest, that did not work. It was horrible.
Mhm.
I was exhausted. I didn't sleep very well. I was probably kind of cranky. So in fact, that's one of the reasons my husband and I, well, we were engaged at the time. We were not married yet. But we were getting ready to get married and join our families together, and we were working constantly. We were not really taking good care of ourselves and our family and our relationship. And so it wasn't working. I was trying to do too much. And so that's why we stepped away from our fitness studio, because literally, like we lived it, breathed it, slept it, and we asked ourselves, in fact, we were in our mandatory marriage counseling at our church. And there was a great exercise that we did. And it's like, what are your priorities? And we had to do that separately. And then you came together to make sure they were aligned. And ours were. They were crystal clear. They were very aligned. And then the second question is, now, how do you actually spend your time? And do you do it according to your priorities? And it was such a huge wake up moment. We closed our business. I just started training part-time at a gym. So I was still working, instead of like 12 jobs, I worked 6, but I still pared it back. And I think that's when I started really thinking that how can I maybe potentially, something needed to change. There was no way I was going to, be 55 and going at this rate. There was no way. So how did I start to make the transition to do some things? And then that plus my friend's retirement conversation was kind of the catalyst that made it all go.
And so you mentioned that you had several businesses before. Could you talk about them as well?
Yeah, well, meaning that we had our fitness studio business, and then I also did individual training. And then prior to that, I worked as a group fitness instructor at different places. So I guess it was more I didn't own a business before that, but I definitely was like an independent contractor, and I worked at other gyms and fitness studios. And then we had our own studio. And then after we closed our studio, I went back to kind of the contracting and worked as a personal trainer at a local gym and taught classes at a gym. And then even when I was leaving my organization, I worked because my online income wasn't full time in the very beginning. I worked as a coach at another fitness studio. So I was always working, and I was always working hard. And so, yeah, that's kind of the other work experience that I had in addition to growing my own business and our fitness studio.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot to me. On top of what you're already doing, the 40-hour, and I guess traveling. Yeah, you must take into account traveling, because
yes,
that's crazy. And also, when you're teaching a class, I assume you're probably kind of active as well.
After.
Yeah, there's prep time, there's class teaching time. Like you can't most of the formats I taught, you actually had to do the workout. So I couldn't just stand back in the corner. I had to lift the bar for body pump. And it was tiring. And I don't recommend that because, the stress, the physical stress and the exhaustion was real. And, but, I was a hustler. I was always someone who wanted to work hard. So there was part of me that there was a lot of soul searching and things that I had to really start to sort through when I made that transition. I had to start creating boundaries and making sure I was living a healthy lifestyle. And, I wasn't perfect by any stretch. So please don't follow in that footstep if you're listening to that. To this podcast, like don't do what I did. That would have been a thing that I would say, if I could do things differently, I probably would have only had 2 jobs and then transitioned a lot earlier.
You mentioned that you did around a year of soul searching, trying to figure out, like what was it that would make your heart sing? What did you do during that time, if you could share with us?
Yeah, I think the thing is I knew what would make my heart sing. I just needed to figure out how to monetize it. Because let's be honest, being a group fitness instructor, depending on what city you're in, what do you do, like $20, $30 per class? And, you have a limit. And so what did I do in that year? The first thing I did, honestly, was I hired a life coach. So there was a lot that I just had to work through in my head. And someone that I'd met, she seemed to really understand me. And so we had a few sessions where I could just really talk about my hopes and dreams in a way, and to a person who didn't think I was crazy. Then I started reading a lot of books. So I read books from other entrepreneurs. I read books on just personal development. So one of my favorite authors is Jen Sincero. She does the You're a Badass at Making Money, because the way she explained some of these things, it was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And those are exactly my fears. And that's, so she really helped me sort through the fear and feeling brave enough to actually make that leap. So I read a lot of authors. Then I started reading business books. I have an MBA, but let me tell you, it's almost worthless in the online space. Things don't work that way anymore, So I was like trying to write a business plan and a marketing plan. It's like, it didn't work that way. So I actually had to unlearn and relearn. So I read a lot of books and articles and listened to a ton of audiobooks from entrepreneurs and social media marketing and all of those things, which are also very outdated, by the way. So then I worked with someone on helping me work through my brand and who I wanted to be and how did I want to show up and what a business model could look like. And then honestly, a lot of the talks were with my husband, because we were getting ready to make a huge change. I mean, I was the primary earner in our home, and he's a retired Army vet and he works, but, it wasn't, it wouldn't be enough to replace. So we really had to do some financial planning. And then I had to, honestly, I think the biggest thing was I felt so responsible for the family, and I was so afraid of letting people down. And I was afraid that our kids wouldn't be able to afford college. And every fear that you have, we had to work through that. But I was very thankful. I am very thankful that my husband, one of the things I love about him the most is he totally gets me. He doesn't always understand it for himself. He wouldn't do it himself. But he has never, ever held me back from pursuing something that everybody else said was nuts. He's always like, I 100% believe in you. I don't always understand, but I've always seen you do all these amazing things. So I can't imagine that you would ever fail. So he was always in my corner, just being like the best support system ever. He understood my need for entrepreneurship. He got my drive, and he got my desire to do something out of the ordinary. And he's been amazing the whole time.
Tell me a little bit about how it's a session with you work, or how do you have any programs with your clients?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I work one-on-one with people in 12-week sprints, as I call them. So we start off with 12 weeks or 3 months. And in the beginning, we have a conversation. They fill out a consultation form, because at the end of the day, I want to know what their life looks like, not just their fitness, but what does their life look like? And then from there, I take the information and design a program. Now, I use a lot of technology, so I have my own branded app. So for those people who are busy, they can be in a gym, they can work at home. I have a lot of clients who travel. And so I take all of those factors into consideration and create a plan for them that explains to them what they need to do, whether it's rest or exercise, or here's your training workout for this day. And then we also come up with a nutrition strategy that works for them. It's all delivered through the app. So I work with people in multiple time zones, all around the country, sometimes other countries. And it's convenient because they have me in their pocket whenever they need me. The app has communication, so we talk all the time. I can do form checks. We can talk via video all the time. And so what I found, it was a really cool, unexpected discovery, is that I have way more connection and touch points with my online clients than I ever did with training people in person. And then we have some clients who want to do another round, other people who maybe move into my maintenance program. And now recently, I'm really excited because in working with these women, I'm discovering some holes in the fitness industry. And so I'm piloting right now a particular program about fueling your body for exercise. There are so many things that people don't know about basic nutrition. Now, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a nutritionist, so I do stay in my lane on these, but from the personal trainer perspective, helping people understand eating or, all of the things that actually happens or what needs to happen when you lose weight, because it's not as simple as everybody says. And then you've got 20,000 new diets that come out every single day and people are confused. And they get bad advice, or they grew up in a particular household that said, this is what you need to do. This is what healthy is. And then they're frustrated when they can't get the results. So in working with women one-on-one, I discovered that this was a big gap. And even if they wanted to work one-on-one with me, if I could create kind of an educational series or program to help them really understand how this worked for their bodies, they would be way more successful with me one-on-one. Or some people who already have strong fitness programs, like you'd mentioned, you're working out 3 days a week and you're, you're doing all the things that makes you feel good and you really love it. But, if, for example, you were struggling on the food side, or you wanted to set a different goal, a performance goal, or gain muscle or lose weight, there are a lot of people who really have no idea the basics on how to do that. So I wanted to create an educational experience that could really help people, understand themselves a lot better, so that whether they just needed that information or wanted to change up their goals or wanted to be stronger in a training program, that they had that knowledge. But basically my main program is 12 weeks one-on-one with me. But this year, one of my big goals is to develop 2 different educational experiences where I've noticed some big holes in the fitness industry.
When you first found your, clients, did you already were you already working with them because you were kind of a personal trainer part-time, and then those people became your first clients, or how did you find them?
Yes and no. So in the beginning, of course, the very first people, when you say, hey, I'm starting this business, are going to be the people who have some sort of connection with you. But I was at least smart enough to hire a business coach in the beginning. And actually, I had 2, and both of them helped me really understand how to use social media to share my story, share my particular niche and point of view and philosophy. So yes, in the beginning, definitely people who knew me. But a lot of people remember I lived that double life. Like, a lot of people knew me as Jennifer, the executive. And so I had to reintroduce myself to the people who knew me and to brand new audiences as Jennifer, the coach and trainer. Mm-hmm. So I have done a lot in terms of just outreach and videos and all sorts of things to connect with people who are outside of my circle. But one of the great things that has gone really well for me is as my clients were successful, my referrals are really high. So people they had a great experience, and that's really important for me, for them to get results and have a great experience. And then they would refer me to people in their network. So between referrals and a lot of the organic social media marketing, I don't really believe in doing a lot of the paid ads. That's just not been my business philosophy. It works for others. Mm-hmm. That's how I've grown my clientele, and it's been amazing. It's been really great. I also offer a free Facebook community, so people will invite people there. And I love sharing just really great resources and knowledge. And, we do little master classes and lunch and learns and all sorts of stuff. And that's Modern Women Getting Fit on Facebook. So I get a lot of inquiries from there. So maybe friends will refer other friends, or people will join the Facebook community. And then they'll see stuff or have questions and reach out to me, and we work together.
And how did you create your app? I thought that's super
The
cool.
app itself is software that's out there. And so as the industry for online fitness has grown, a lot of the support technology has grown too. So this is a software that's built for people who work with clients online. And then I was able to customize it for my clients and my branding and my programs.
Do you mind sharing that?
No, it's Trainerize. And there are other apps that are similar to that, like Coach HQ, or now, of course, they're all like running out of my head. All I can think of is Trainerize and Coach HQ. But there are other types of apps that are like that. So if you are working with an online fitness trainer and they're not using like a Google Doc or a spreadsheet, they are likely using one of these apps.
When you decided to leave your previous career and, start your own business, what was it like? Was it scary or was it exciting? Was it both?
Yes. Of course it was scary, but I have to say, I have never regretted leaving. And this is not a knock on my previous job. There are so many great people that I work with, some friendships they're very deep and I still will be friends forever. But it was very clear, like when I left and I started doing my own thing, that was not my lifestyle. What I do now is my lifestyle. It just feels like a natural fit. And I guess I didn't know I had a different natural fit because I'd never given myself the opportunity to explore it. But yes, it was scary. I mean, there were certainly months. And one of the things that happened, like literally almost 6 months into me leaving, was I got extremely ill. And let me tell you, it's like the kiss of death for a personal trainer. I went from being at the height of my wellness and fitness to being in the hospital. And I was in and out of hospitals for months and months and months I didn't know what was wrong with me. And so I would go through weeks of being exhausted and, dizzy, and my heart rate would drop really low and I couldn't exercise. I gained weight. Like, look, let me just tell you, just being a personal trainer and being chubby and exhausted all the time is not the way that you attract people. So I was scared because I had to still talk about health and fitness when I didn't feel healthy or fit. So for months and months now, it turned out like I had breast implants and that was the cause of my illness. After seeing 8 million specialists, lots of tests, lots of hospitals, I had surgery and had them removed and I was great. I felt healthy again, but it was very, very difficult right in the beginning of starting a new business to be not only not at my best, but literally at my worst. So it was a huge challenge in the beginning. Financially, things got a little tough for a little while, but I had to continue to ask myself, is this what I'm supposed to do? And my mother would even say, Jennifer, I can't imagine you doing anything else. You have to trust God. You have to do it. And I did. And somehow there was always a solution. So I always tell people, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a no matter what attitude, because there will be about 5 or 6 times every year that you could reasonably quit and nobody would blame you. I'm serious, but you really have to truly love what you do and believe in yourself to know that this is what you should be doing. So I started off like doing really well. I got to 6 figures. I lost 6 figures. Now I got back up to 6 figures. And I know that as an entrepreneur, like that's what they talk about, those first 5 years of business, 3 to 5 years. But until you actually do it, you don't know what fear feels like. Like, oh my gosh, can I pay my mortgage this month? Are we going to be good? I've never not paid my mortgage. So despite all of that, despite how scary it is, despite the fact that half the time you feel like I have no clue what I'm doing, it is also the best thing I've ever done. It's the best thing ever. I couldn't trade this lifestyle. I mean, there were times where I'm like, I have to get a job. Maybe I'll have to get a job. And I'm like, I can't do that. I mean, I'm allergic to those things now. I'm so happy. I mean, joy. This is, I am, when you are like in that pocket and you are living yourself, like you're that authentic person, you're that real, you are out there. You are happy. I don't care what comes my way. I'm happy. I love what I do. Truly love it. Like the similar passion and love I feel for my children and my husband. I love what I do. And that's there's no fear that's going to take that away.
Some people really do say that, like entrepreneurship is like really one of the hardest things you can probably ever do because it's just so hard to prepare for, and almost no one can teach you very much about it because it's so different, right? Depending on what you want to do, what kind of business you're in and what industry you're in. So if you can maybe potentially, possibly try your hardest to give people some of your tips, what are some of the things that, if somebody is considering entrepreneurship as a career like you are already doing right now, what are some of the things that they can learn and, try to develop right now before they actually fully jump into it?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I would say, number one, always work on your personal development. Develop your mind, develop your knowledge, develop your, the books that, Girl Wash Your, all those little books that don't seem all that seem like cute and interesting. Read those. You have to be a strong human. You have to also be humble, and you're going to learn about all your flaws. Like I had difficulty around money mindset, and I had to start to build that muscle, So I think one of the common traits is that you have to continuously be better. You will be growing into the person that you want to be. You are not there. No entrepreneur is there. You will continue to grow into that person that you want to be. So you have to start being strong of mind. You have to do things that challenge you and scare you. It's not like you start a business and you've made it. You start a business and you're at the beginning, and you have to continuously grow. The second thing I would say is find a circle of people who you can talk with about being an entrepreneur. One of the best things I've ever done is invest in a mastermind group. So I have a group of women who are people who are about where I am in business and that first 10 years of business, who are movers and shakers, who get the types of things that I think about, or that mindset, because not everybody's an entrepreneur. So you can't necessarily, your best friend who is like the best human being in the world, if he or she is not an entrepreneur, there are going to be things that they can't relate to, whether it's an online community or an in-person community where you can be a part of a group of people who are like-minded. That's so, so important. Number 3, hire help. My business coach right now is a 27-year-old, Canadian business coach, and he's amazing. So humble yourself and get help, especially if you're moving into an area that's kind of different than what you've been doing. And understand that even if it's something similar, there's a lot you don't know. And this is me speaking as a coach, not only for fitness or business, but like I hire a fitness coach because I have to be able to mentally get out of my own way. And sometimes you can't see it if it's about you. So same with a business coach. I know business and I coach other people. But when it's my business, I need a second set of eyes. So if you're an entrepreneur, get a business coach, period. I think that's important. So work on yourself, have a community of like-minded people, get a coach. Those are the 3 things I would recommend.
Wow. I love that. I since we're talking about getting a coach, I think at least personally, I feel like it's kind of a new thing that people are kind of adjusting how they're seeing getting coaches. And there are definitely a lot more people that are coaches online now, especially. What are some ways that people can, try to assess if this coach is the right coach for me?
Oh, yeah. It's a great question because there are a lot of people. And first, you be clear about what you need. Like first, if you are someone, so in business, if you're someone who's starting a business, look for coaches who work with people who are starting businesses. Maybe not people who are scaling to 7 figures. That's not really who you want. In fitness, same thing. If you are like, I work with women who are busy. So if you're a guy and you want to like gain weight, not to say that I couldn't train you, but I may not be the best coach for you. There are other people who specialize. So a good coach is going to have a specialization. There's going to be something that they can do really, really well. And you should be able to assess that from whatever they're putting out there, whether it's their social media or case studies or some of their posts. I also think that it's important if you have the opportunity to watch testimonials or speak to previous clients of the coach. And that's any industry, to get their experience, understand like, what is it like to work with this person? Did you have a good experience? What was the good, the bad, and the ugly? What would you change or improve about this person? And then finally, interview these people. I always say, like, this is my whole philosophy when it comes to people I hire. And I consider doctors, dentists, lawyer, everybody. You work for me. I'm paying you good money. I need to know if this is going to be a good fit. It's like a relationship, especially coaching. Coaching and no matter whether it's business or fitness, can be very intimate. You're going to have to, in order to have a good experience, be able to open up to this person. So interview them. So if there are a couple people that you found online or were referred to you, and you kind of do your upfront due diligence and do your research, talk to them, set up a call, say, hey, I'm exploring this and I want to see if this is a good fit, and have some really good questions prepared and ask very deep and honest questions. The right coach, you will know. It's kind of like dating. You're going to know that this person is a good fit for you. And it doesn't mean, and if they're not a good fit, it doesn't mean they're a bad person or even a bad coach. It just means that they may not be your coach. So yeah, do your homework a little bit and look for their specialty, ask for referrals or testimonials or other customers, talk to them, and then interview the coach.
Are there any helpful resources you'd recommend for people that are starting out or they want to do something like what you're doing?
For fitness? Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, shameless plug, but it's actually still one of the best resources. And I used this before I was even engaged with the group. But for online fitness coaching, I hands down believe that the group, it's a free Facebook community called Aspiring Online Coaches. And I work with that group. But what happens is that there's free trainings given by experienced, and it's not all fitness, but it's like mainly fitness, but personal services type coaches. And so people who've had experience in the industry give free trainings in there every other week. Every now and then there are more big events like challenges, or we just came off of a virtual conference where we brought in like some really huge business and brand and fitness coaches to explain exactly, how you start a business. So I have always found that group to be one of the best free resources that you can possibly find for fitness coaching. Because there's no pressure. It's like everybody can come in, everybody is met where they are. You can sift through different resources. So there's really something for everybody who's at various points of getting started. So Aspiring Online Coaches, and it's a Facebook group. That's one of my favorites.
Do you think you could have another career change, or maybe you would want to start another business? What would that look like?
Oh, wow. I would never say. Right now I'm in the throes of like scaling my current business, so it's hard to imagine. But I'm also one of those people who, like I said, I like finding solutions to things. So if I ever got to a point where I saw that there was something like I could really do something about and I would enjoy it, I would absolutely consider starting another business. But as long as this one was mature and at a point where I could transition out of, operations. And that's what every entrepreneur is trying to get to be working on the business and not in the business. But secretly, I've always wanted to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Like someone who like I dance or like entertainment. I love that. I used to cheer in high school, and I love to dance, and I love, I'm not afraid of a stage. Maybe that's why I always like fitness instruction. But if I ever got to the point where I could become the oldest Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, I would totally do it.
I love it. And where can people find you online?
I would love for people to find me online on Instagram at The Real Jennifer Nagel, and that's Nagel. Or better yet, so that everybody gets something really cool, like I'd mentioned, I've got this great Facebook community called Modern Women Getting Fit. And in that community, we've got different trainings and master classes and tips for real people to figure out how to incorporate fitness and healthy nutrition and healthy living into their lives. So that's Facebook, Modern Women Getting Fit, and then on Instagram at The Real Jennifer Nagel. And then, of course, my website's therealjennifernagel.com.
Great. So, to our listeners, if you're interested in working with Jennifer or want to find out more about what she does online, definitely check out those places online and leave her a message.
This was such a wonderful conversation. And thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing all of these things with us. And your energy is just amazing, especially at 7, 8 a.m. I feel like I'm so ready for my day. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dana, Angela. I appreciate the invitation. I love what you guys are doing and keep telling these stories. I think it's amazing. And thanks for having me on.